Well, let's move away from the Ukraine war now and focus on climate because all through the month of June, we've been bringing you reports of extreme heat affecting large parts of the world. Let's take a look at this. Starting in North America, Mexico and the southern United States have seen record-breaking temperatures topping 45 degrees Celsius in places. In the UK, the Met Office says this June is on track to be declared the hottest on record. And Asia has also been suffering. Dozens are thought to have died in India in recent weeks from heat-aggravated conditions as temperatures climbed up to 45 degrees in some areas. And in Beijing, temperatures soared above 41 degrees Celsius last week, setting a record for the hottest day of June the city has ever seen. Now, climate scientists say a developing El Niño phenomenon could help make 2023 a record year for global warming. Well, to discuss this, I'm joined in the studio by Professor Benjamin Horton. He's the director of the Earth Observatory at Singapore's Nanyang Technological University. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. So as we just mentioned, we're seeing this record temperatures and we're just in June. So what does it say about the state of climate change?
Well, yes, we're recording record-breaking temperatures in June, and for the Northern Hemisphere, you would expect that in the months of July and August. And the resulting factor of that is human-induced climate change. So we have these record-breaking temperatures in Beijing, above 42 degrees C. You can look elsewhere in Asia, such as India, where they're in excess of 46 degrees C, and we have fatalities, we have hospital surges to do with health-related problems. And if you move away to North America, the record temperatures are drying out forest soils. We've seen these extensive burns in Canada, and now we have the cities of Washington, D.C., Chicago, and Detroit having the worst air quality in the world. And it is down to human-induced climate change. So in the southern parts of the United States, they have a heat dome where Texas is recording consecutive days in 3 digits in Fahrenheit above 45 degrees C. So scientists have looked at what are the influences of human-induced climate change. Without climate change, the probability of that event in the southern states of the United States is a once in 500-year event. With climate change, it's a staggering once in every 2 to 3 years.
And of course, earlier this month, global temperatures exceeded pre-industrial levels by more than 1.5 Celsius, which of course was the limit adopted in the Paris Climate Agreement. I mean, you speak to a younger generation who feels like it's just all doom and gloom. I mean, is there anything that we can still do to stop this?
Well, yes, very unfortunately and alarming for climate scientists is that we've passed this critical threshold. So over a decade or so ago, the scientific community were tasked with finding out what is the threshold within the Earth's climate system that allows us, quite simply, to have the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the food that we eat, and the economies that we rely upon. And we found that the threshold was around 1.5 degrees C above pre-industrial values. If you go beyond that threshold, then you can have catastrophic collapses. If I'm allowed to give you a few examples of that. So if you go beyond the 1.5 degrees C threshold, the ocean circulation that takes warm temperatures and water from the tropics to the poles starts to slow down and may stop. If we think about sea level rise, the ice sheets at our poles, Greenland and Antarctica, that together hold within them over 70 meters of water, can start to collapse. And if we bring this home to Singapore, around a third of our land area is only 1 meter above high tide. So we need to actively try to stop the amount of carbon dioxide to limit the chances of our temperatures going beyond the 1.5 degrees C. Once we go beyond that, we need to implement nature-based solutions, carbon capture and storage to return us to below those thresholds.
I don't want to just be gloom and gloom. So I want to ask you about that report that we saw yesterday, that China's renewable efforts are actually progressing a lot quicker than estimated. Is that good news? At least that's a positive step?
Well, I think in general, one of the aspects about climate change is that we have all the solutions we need. We now produce renewable energy that is cheaper than coal, natural gas, and petroleum. The expansion of our renewable energy is at unprecedented rates, but we're still burning fossil fuel. Our amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere in 2022 was the most amount that we've ever recorded. If we go along this track, just give you some feeling about this, if we continue to burn our fossil fuels, by the middle of this century, we will have carbon dioxide concentrations that have not been felt on planet Earth for 3 million years. So yes, there are many solutions: investing in nature, developing our carbon capture and storage, being more efficient, more sustainable. It's critical for us because we want to live in a life that's prosperous and sustainable.
Professor Benjamin Horton, thank you so much for joining us on Newsay. And that is it for this edition of